All right, guys, yesterday we worked on these doors. We sanded them, we cleaned them, we sanded them, and we put a sealer on them. All right, so the sealer looks really good on here. Now there is still just a few places where I would like to see a little more uniformity in the color, where there was discoloration, but overall it's not bad. I think maybe some of the worst stuff is like right here. There's a little bit of discoloration. Basically around the handles where the finish really kind of disintegrated. Because I'm not sure what finish was on there, but it really was quite soft. And typically that's where it's going to break down, right around the handles. Okay, so I played around a little bit with color yesterday. Now I have my Renner stain colorants, my Renner stain chart, and you can get this stuff from a few different places. I got my first kit from Elite Fine Finish in Texas, Louis Hasso. So you can get this color chart, and it also has the formulas in here for how to make each of these colors. So these are the colors here. This is the same colors on walnut. Here it's on maple. And it always starts with a spray stain base, and you can also use a wiping stain base, and then it tells you how much of each of the colorants to add. You can do it in grams or ounces. So I like to use the grams because the ounces are a little bigger measure, and so they need fractions. And it just seems a little more accurate for me to use whole numbers with the grams as much as possible. So I spent a little more money for this scale. It's a little more than just a cheap kitchen scale. And so it's got a leveling thing here. This is an ADEJ-1500. It was a couple $100, but I like it a lot. So what I did yesterday is I kind of look at I just kind of started with my door, and I'm just kind of looking at what colors might be in here. And I know it's not too much dark in here. We need a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, maybe a little orange, maybe a little brown. And we're going to go pretty light on the toner. We don't want to change the color too much, or at all if possible, but to just bring some uniformity. So I looked at this antique oak, and I saw that this one has a little red. It has a little more yellow. It has orange, and it has brown. The yellow number is a little high, but I did start with mixing up this. I did not use the base. I just mixed up the colorants. Just a tiny bit of colorants in a container like this. And it actually was very close to what I wanted, except it just seemed like there was a little bit too much yellow in it, which kind of makes sense because the number here for the yellow is like twice as much as the others. And so here's where you kind of got to do trial and error. I'm just going to cut this yellow in half, and I'm going to use the exact same formula I did yesterday. I'm going to cut it in half, and we're going to give that a try on one cabinet door. The nice thing is, if the color isn't right, you can take it back off again. All right, so the original color sample kit that I got from Elite Fine Finish had only these small containers of color, but these get depleted pretty quickly if you're doing a lot of staining. You're going to want to get the bigger ones. But instead of pouring out of these, I like to pour these into my small containers because these have just a small hole, and you can kind of dribble it in and get just the exact color. I'm going to dump this colorant out. I know it's like a waste, but I can't really use it anymore. The most important thing in all of this is to keep track of your formula, so in case you ever need to replicate it, then you can do that. So I'm starting with an empty container. Turn that on. And we're going to use the antique oak modified formula. And then if that one works good for this red birch, we're going to do everything that way today. We can remix the color more if we need to. So that's where it's good to document what you're doing. Yesterday I didn't add any white. I'm going to maybe add a little bit of that today in this experiment. We can always start over, right? I mean, this is just, there's not a lot of waste. So the first one is 20 grams of white. And so you just kind of squirt this in slowly. I don't know if you can see that on, yep, you can see it. Okay, I went to 21. I'm going to dump a little bit out. Oh, okay, 19. I don't know how, super important it is for something like this. If we be trying to duplicate a color all the time, we would want to get this like super exact. But we're making kind of a one-time color. We're going to mark what we did for each one. And so it does fluctuate a little bit. So we're at 20.8. All right, I'm going to zero it out. And then we're going to go to our next color, which is the red. We want 6.4 grams. This is my red. I got to go a little slower. That way I can stop right at the right time. If you kind of pour too fast and put too much pressure on it, the numbers kind of jump around a little more. So once I get close, I'm going to slow down and just let it dribble in. That'll be more exact. There, 6.4. My next color is yellow, and that was originally 48. I'm going to make that one a good bit less. I'm going to go down to about half, 24. We'll zero this out. I can go a little faster at the beginning until I get my number close. So mixing my own stains is something fairly new to me as well. So I'm not here to give you a how-to video. I'm more demonstrating my own learning process, and hopefully you can learn something from that as well. Right, I'm at 24. Now orange, I need 27. Okay, orange, let's see, it's yellow. Here's orange. Now I don't have a small container for this one. I'm going to have to kind of dribble this one in best I can. Zero it out, and we're going to go to 27. See, it's a lot harder when you're doing it this way. I'm going to call that close enough. I'm at 26.1. Maybe see if I can get a drop in there yet. Yeah, there's nothing like putting a drop in without these things. I'm going to call that close enough. Yeah, so definitely get yourself some squeeze tubes if you don't have these. Zero this out again. One more color, and that is the brown. Now the brown is called light walnut, but it's the same. They all have they have numbers on them also. This is the TY 1496, and that's what the brown is called on there as well, the TY 1496. So the names might not quite match. All right, so brown and Antigo 26.6. Now this will be enough of colorant to do the whole kitchen. I'm going to mix just a little bit of this into my sealer. I'm going to do another coat of sealer over top and make a toner out of it. And then we'll do a final clear coat over everything. There we go, right in. Now we'll just get a little stir stick and mix that up. But you see, we don't really have much, but it's all we're gonna need. Of course, if you would be doing a color change on a kitchen, going from light to dark, you may do a little more color. You're gonna add more color to your base. But since I'm doing I hardly want a color change. I'm trying to just give a little bit of uniformity, add just a little depth to the color. I'm going to go pretty light to start with. You can always build that up with multiple coats, and I can always add more to my sealer rather than take it out. Just a little bit of toner. See how that goes. I bought some of these little ketchup bottles or whatever they are off of Amazon. I'm going to use some of them for this kind of thing. What I'll do is, this is my colorant that I mixed up. And I'll put this in here. I can take this with me today to the job. And now I've got a way to kind of mix up for my tuner. This is a clear sanding sealer, C674. You could use any sanding sealer here if you wanted to. This is actually a 2K sanding sealer. You could use a single component like the 1150. I've done that. There's a 321 sanding sealer. There's a 653. They've got a few different ones. And I don't know what all the difference is because I've not tried all of them. I'm going to use this one. This one's catalyzed at 5%. So I like this sealer. It's actually a lot thinner than the 1150. The 1150, I usually thin it down a little more. But this is nice and thin, which is good for like a toner. You want it fairly thin. Now I'm just going to mix this up. 15 ounces. I guess I should do it on my scales. I forget if I zeroed this out or not. Okay, so to zero that out, I'm going to go to ounces this time because I am still familiar with ounces when it comes to mixing. I know my cup gun holds about 13. And add about, all right, let's see, if we would be at 2% of 15, that means we want about 0.3 of our colorant. That's 0.1. I'm going to mix that in a little bit and see what we're at, what we look like. All right. Okay, so that's that. Just going to clean up here a little bit, get a door, sand it, and spray it. Okay, so here I'm spraying my toner. I'm kind of zoomed in pretty far so you can't really see my spray gun, but if you look closely, you'll see the color kind of changing as I go. So what I had done here is I made a second batch of colorant with a little less yellow in it. And this did actually end up matching what the previous finish was, but now there with the light on it, it looks orange, so it's not that orange. But anyway, this finish had yellowed some, so some of the old conversion varnishes and some of the lacquers, whatever they used, it yellowed pretty badly. And when I actually found that the back sides of the doors hadn't yellowed as much, and when I compared the fronts of my doors with the backs, I realized how yellow they actually were compared to what a natural red birch should be. Now in this picture, my infrared light is shining on it, so it looks extra yellow here. They weren't actually that yellow. So I actually went ahead and made up a third batch of toner. And for that batch of toner, I just added a little bit of brown, I believe. It was brown and a little bit of orange and a little bit of red. Maybe just those three colors with no white and no yellow. And I just did a really light coat of that over everything that I had done already. So what happens when you do toner coats, every color tends to build on top of the previous color. So because the previous color had a little bit of yellow in, my new toner color kind of built on top of that. So it wouldn't have been quite the same if I would have started with that color originally. So I kind of had to tweak it to bring the color back away from the yellow a little more than what it had been, which ended up darkening up the cabinet doors and cabinets a little more than a natural red birch. But we did get it back away from that kind of golden, yellowy, aged finish look, which I actually liked a little better, even though it ended up being a little bit darker. The client liked it as well, so it was a win-win. So that was day 2, and then day 3 is where we go back and basically add that same extra coat to the cabinets. I did that on day 3 in the morning, and then in the afternoon, after about 4 hours, I went and hung the cabinet doors.